My guest at this time can be heard every week on her podcast, Oral Sessions. She is also the author of the new cookbook, Messy in the Kitchen, My Guide to Eating Deliciously, Hosting Fabulously, and Sipping Copiously. Coming out on May 18th, it's Renee Paquette. Renee, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me here today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. I'm an author. Can you believe it?
Man, I can't. No, it's incredible.
Me neither. Who approved that?
I don't know. A fool, a damn fool.
I love it.
So, first of all, great name for the book. It's fun
Thanks.
to say. It's fun to say.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Got a good little catch to it. I like it. I mean, it's a run-on sentence, which is standard for me, so it fit the book.
Good. Well, how does it feel here to finally let this cookbook out onto the world?
It blows my mind. I can't believe that, like, this germ of an idea that I had of like, I really want to have a cookbook. I should have a cookbook. I'm qualified to have a cookbook, to like actually having the book now. Like, I've got copies of it at the house. It's going to be in people's homes so soon. It's just such a surreal thing to really like take a step back and look at, of like just really wanting to do something and making it happen. And now it's here. It's fantastic. I'm so proud of this book. It's such it's so much of me. There's so much of my personality in it. It is like authentically Renee Paquette. People have known Renee Young for such a long time, but now to give them a little bit more of Renee Paquette, I think is really cool. I'm really excited about that.
So, why a cookbook? Have you always been passionate about cooking? Yeah, why'd you choose this medium?
Yeah, so I love to cook, but I also just love cookbooks. Anytime there's a new cookbook coming out, like, I will buy everything. I pre-order on Amazon, which you should all do for my book. I just love having them. I love sitting on my couch with like either a cup of tea or a glass of wine when I can, and flipping through a book. So I really wanted to make a book that I wanted to look through and cook from, obviously. But yeah, there's just something about cookbooks. It's just they're so visually appealing, and flipping through the food and reading the stories. And there's just something about cookbooks that I love, that I really wanted to participate in that world. And I really wanted to I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, and so are these like what, family recipes? Or these things that you like Dr. Frankenstein in the kitchen? Like, how did you come up
Kind
with
of both.
Yeah.
Kind of both. There was definitely quite a bit of Frankensteining for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a good combination. Like, I mean, there's some of my staple go-tos that are in there. But then there's also, I was really lucky that my mom had found some of my grandmother's recipes, like written on like the index cards, very loose instructions, by the way. So she kind of threw me for a bit of a loop, trying to like, what do you need for this? How much of what? So there are some recipes from my nanny that are in there that I had to finagle a little bit. And then there are ones that would like be Frankenstein together, that like, when you're putting together a book, and as much as I could be like, oh yeah, I want to write a cookbook, I'm not actually a chef. I just love to cook. So being like, okay, I need 60 to 70 recipes, that becomes a big mountain. You're like, hey, what am I going to put in this? So it was just all consuming, of like waking up in the middle of the night and being like, I have this idea, mix these two things together. Or like, Jon was really great for helping me with that too. Just coming up, like there's a peanut butter and jelly chicken that's in there. And like, that was Jon's brainchild idea. I think there was something else too that he gave me that ended up making its way through there. But I would just think of things that I loved. Like, I love French onion soup so much, but I'm like, hey, I don't want to do just the French onion soup. What can I do from that? So I made like a French onion soup grilled cheese, which will rock your freaking world. It's so good.
That sounds amazing. And so like, the style of the dishes, is it more Americana, Midwest? Like, do you branch out? Like, what kind of dishes did you put together here?
I mean, it's kind of all over the place, in the sense of like, there are some good Canadian dishes. I've got poutine in there for sure. There's all dressed chips, chops, which you can use any chip that you can find. I know you can't get all dressed chips everywhere, but we can get them at our grocery store here in Las Vegas. So those are kind of always in our pantry. But I dusted up some pork chops in all dressed chips, and they're amazing. But then I also have like a Cincinnati chili. So I got the Midwest taken care of. I had to take care of Jon and make sure that I gave a little homage to Cincinnati in the book.
Sure.
To then having, a brainchild of like the shepherd's pie pierogies. I love pierogies. I love shepherd's pie. Maybe we can combine these things.
Yeah, that sounds really, really good. Like a stuffed pierogi with like the shepherd's pie
Yeah.
ingredients inside of it.
Hell yes. It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, see, my TV usually has like Carnival Eats or like Guys Grocery Games on in the background. So
Yeah.
I'm right there. I mean, like that's really inventive. That sounds like something that would totally fly on a cooking show.
Totally. And it does work. I mean, the basis of it, you need to have the mashed potatoes in there anyway. So let's also add in, whether you're using ground lamb or ground beef, add in those peas, the carrots, mash it all together, put it in a pierogi, fry it up real good with some sour cream and some like fried onions.
I think
so good.
I think you just sold me the book just on that. Now, so you are obviously a phenomenal on-screen personality, Renee. I'll jump to something here. I recently I was talking to Maria Kanellis Bennett, and she said that because of you, more women in pro wrestling just get a chance in general. Commentary positions, backstage positions. She saw you as just like a trailblazer and so confident in that role. First of all, that aside, since you are
Thank you, Maria. She's lovely.
Yes, and she's doing great things with Women of Honor. It sounds like over there.
Yeah.
But with you being as strong as you are, I mean, I got to imagine like if you have a passion for cookbooks and being on TV, are we gonna get like a cooking show here down the road from you?
I mean, it just makes sense, right? I feel like it would be such a missed opportunity to not do that. I'm hoping so. I feel like it's that thing, you know, I manifested getting this book going and I'm really proud of it, but also like, not only am I proud of like the recipes that are in there, but the writing's really fun. And there's so much of my personality that comes through in the writing that I think people will like and appreciate. And it feels like hopefully I'm there in the kitchen with you while you're cooking or reading it or however you're ingesting this book. But yeah, to combine my love of cooking with my love of just like being on TV and getting to host a show, it just makes sense. So hopefully that will be the next step once the book is out there to the world. I really hope so. I feel like I would love to be in that space.
Yeah, you would rule in that space, Renee. And would you let Jon into that space? Do you see him maybe like appearing, co-hosting? I mean, he brings a real like a hardcore dude element to cooking that like you don't get with a lot of other cooking stuff, you know?
Well, that's true. But the problem is that like Jon's not much of a cook.
Yeah.
So he's a great presence and I will welcome him onto the show anytime. Anytime he wants to come hang out on a show, of course I welcome him.
Sure.
But when it comes to cooking stuff, it's a little iffy. He can be a little together. He's a good sandwich maker. He's good at putting together like a snack bowl. Those are some of his strengths. Like he can do like a good egg sandwich. I'll give him that.
Okay.
But I feel like this could be a little bit more of like, you know, Trisha Yearwood has her cooking show and like every now and then Garth Brooks pops on. So maybe Jon can be my Garth Brooks or my Chris Gaines, however you want to look at it.
You beat me to the Chris Gaines joke. And
I will beat everyone to every Chris Gaines joke.
Man, I'm a child of Texas. So anyway. But like this isn't just a book where it's just food. I mean, it's really hard to burn an old fashioned. I mean, I know you've got cocktails in this as well. And it seems like Jon really likes whiskey. I mean, he had some before that exploding barbed wire death match.
Yeah. He chipped a tooth on that?
On drinking the whiskey?
On the flask.
Really?
Knocked a tooth out. Yep.
Before the match?
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
I don't know if I was supposed to tell anyone that, but that happened.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He lives to tell the tale. Yeah, he's a whiskey drinker. He loves whiskey. So I gave him I did the cowboy cocktail in there for him, which is just like stiff whiskey with a little dash of Coke. That's it. So there are some cool like there's a couple drinks in there that require a little bit more than that. But generally I like to just pour a goblet of wine and he just drinks a stiff whiskey. So I had to branch out from those two things, but I did give him his cowboy cocktail in there.
Was that harder for you to think of cocktail recipes than food recipes? Because it's mixology is not an easy medium.
It's not an easy medium. And so when I was looking at that too, because like I'm not a huge dessert person, or at least I wasn't prior to getting pregnant. So I was like, I don't need desserts. I'm not a big baker. I don't want to have desserts in the book. So I'm going to put cocktails in there instead. But yeah, when you really look at that, it's like, it's a whole different ball game. So I had fun kind of tinkering around of like, what are some of the drinks that I love that I can put in there? I mean, there's nothing that's like going to be too over anyone's head. So we're good. I had been flipping through a couple other books trying to like figure it out, and like mixology can be very snobby. Cooking in general can be very snobby. This book is not that.
Yeah, that's why I brought up
snobbery.
That's why I brought up Jon, because I was like, yeah, because, you know, a lot of people do look at cooking or mixology, you know, the fancy hipsters and things like that. It seems like you're going for a real direct approach. I was reading the description. You want to encourage more people to just be cooking and doing more stuff in the kitchen. That seems to be the attitude of the book in general, right?
Yeah, and that, you know, that's the thing for me. It's like cooking is like it's just food. It's just food. We all got to eat at some point. So you might as well learn how to make some good meals and have fun in the kitchen. And for me, it's like making a new meal and following a new recipe. That is like my zen space. I love being in my own kitchen. I don't want to do like a 15-minute throw together meal. Like I want to chop stuff. I want to braise things. I want to let them stew for a while. Like there's just something about that I just really love. And I want to encourage more people to do that, because I think a lot of people think that they're not good cooks, but it's just following instructions. It's not that complicated. You can do it. Anyway, if I can do it, you can do it.
Well, it's a very fun, playful environment, cooking and making cocktails. How do you feel when you watch Jon do not such playful things, very violent things? I mean, is that, I don't know, just like, how does that affect you? You know,
it can be difficult. You know, I think I've gotten so used to it over the years that I kind of like pick and choose my moments of like, what am I watching? How concerned do I need to be? Do I like this other guy that's on the other side of the ring from him? Like all of these things that you have to kind of think about. But I mean, Jon's Jon. Jon's going to do what he wants to do regardless. So either you're for him or you're against him, and it's easier to be with him.
yeah. Is there one moment that made you particularly more aghast than anything else that he's done?
Yeah, when him and Kenny Omega had their first like death match style match,
I was there.
Were you there for that?
I was there at the live cut match. Yeah.
Oh, I was watching from home, and I'm like, good God. But when Kenny shoved the glass in his mouth, I was like, okay, that's too much. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that one got me. And then also when he like landed on, I believe it was like landing on the thumbtacks and then had the alcohol poured over his back. At least it was sterile and clean.
Yeah, that's true.
No, but I could imagine the pain.
You know, I was there for that, Renee, and I have a lot of friends that are in the death match community, and that really just seemed like an opus to death match wrestling. I mean, I don't know that we'll ever see anything. I mean, and there's the exploited barbed wire death match was very violent, but I don't know that anything can touch what him and Kenny did that night. That was really something special.
It was really next level, and you could tell that they had something to prove that night. And you know, obviously with the exploding barbed wire death match, I mean, that whole match was fantastic. The ending could have used a little bit of love, but the whole match was so incredible to watch. But yeah, I mean, their very first match together, and that was them kind of figuring out their chemistry together in the ring as well, and kind of figuring out what they want to do. And for a lot of people to not imagine Kenny Omega in that style of match, I think it just added all of these layers to like Kenny in that situation, Jon Moxley outside of WWE doing the thing that he loves to do. They were not going to leave any stone unturned for that.
So for you, like, you know, as his wife, and you know how passionate he is as an artist, right? You know, he's going out. This is a very violent art that he's creating, and you know how much it means to him. And then there's that, you know, ending that people had issues with. How is it sitting there trying to, like, you know, be the shoulder for him to talk to in those situations when you see all this? Or does he give a shit? I don't know.
I mean, Jon gives a shit about everything he does. I mean, he is a wrestler and he loves what he does very, very much. But he also has a very good mindset and a good head on his shoulders of like, well, it is what it is. It's live TV. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's on to the next. To sit and dwell on something or to get mad about something and want to point fingers at people, that's not his game at all. So it's one he'll just take on the chin and move on to the next. So I think his mindset on something like that is really eye-opening, I think, for anybody in the back that could have been watching that match and anticipating a star of his caliber storming to the back, wanting to scream at somebody. And that's just not him. Yeah. He would never do that. So for him to take that and be like, oh, it is what it is. Like, the rest of the match was great and this thing happened and it sucks, but what are you going to do? You can't, he cut his promo afterwards. And for somebody to think on his feet as quickly as he does, to kind of save face in a situation like that, he's the best at that.
Were you included in the decision for him to announce y'all's pregnancy in the promo on AEW Dynamite?
Loosely. Yeah, he texted me and he was like, I can say it tonight, right? Because I was like right at that cusp of like hitting that like 12-week mark, going into second trimester. And I was like, yeah, I had just come home from the doctors. I had just had an ultrasound. Everything was good. So I was like, well, shit, if you want to say it, go for it. It saves me having to do it. Because there's so much pressure on the woman to be like, I'm pregnant. Look at it. Like, you want to be in control of sharing this news. So the fact that he was going to be in the driver's seat for that, I was like, hell yeah, you get it out there. I'll take it.
It was done in such a badass way. Like, he's like threatening another human being, but then just decides to slyly work in how he's going to have a baby. That's unique.
Yeah, he like said it and moved on. I like that the promo wasn't about him becoming a dad. It was just a piece of information within that promo. And instantly my phone's just like all these text messages. Like, did I just hear that right?
Yeah, I bet. Oh, I see the analytics for our site. I know what happened that night. Anyway, so very serendipitous here. We have a Moxley Paquette and a Rhodes, both being born within a couple months. Are you and Brandy sharing maternity time together? Are you guys close? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, we were literally just texting before I hopped on here. I mean, we kind of check in with each other periodically to be like, how are you doing? How's your body holding? Need, like, what are you preparing for? So it's been really, really cool. I mean, literally from the time her and I talked about this on my podcast briefly, but we had been together because I was in Jacksonville with Jon end of August, right after I left WWE. I was there with him in Jacksonville, and Brandy came over and we were all hanging out. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to like hurry up and have a baby. She was like, yeah, I'm kind of thinking about it too. Literally a month apart from each other. I'm like, girl, what did we have that night? Got knocked up. Wow. So yeah, no, it's been really cool to have Brandy as a friend to like lean on during all of this, to having like other girlfriends as well. That, I mean, from having Becky Lynch just having her baby, to talking to the Bella twins about it, and talking to Maurice. I've been really, really lucky to have so many girlfriends that are in that same boat that have been able to like share information. Sarah Logan as well. She sent me like a beautiful care package of like mom necessities. So yeah, it's been really cool. I've been lucky.
It's I want to say it's amazing to hear that the next generation of pro wrestlers is all being born at once right now.
I know. Isn't that wild? Well, I like tweeted something about that where it's like, man, in 20 years, who knows what this scene's going to look like? There's some thoroughbreds coming through.
So based on your reaction, I would guess that you wouldn't be opposed if your daughter decided she wanted to enter the colorful world of professional wrestling.
What can you do, right? I mean, if it's something that she's drawn to and it's something she's into, I just want my kid to be passionate about whatever it is she wants to do. Because, when people ask me like, all right, are you going to let her watch Jon wrestle? Like, how are you going to introduce her to that? And it's like, I can only hope that my daughter would be as passionate about something as Jon is about wrestling, or as I am about the things that I get to do. So if wrestling happens to be that thing for her, then I'll get her some boots, I guess.
Cool. Or a nice suit, right? If she
I know a good jacket when I see one. So I think I actually have been holding on to I hold on to a lot of my different clothes. I get rid of a lot of stuff too. I'm not a total hoarder. But yeah, there's certain things that I hold on to. I'm like, she better like this. Okay. She's going to want this one day.
Okay. My girlfriend's mom does that too. She still has a lot of her mom's clothes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talking about what you do, Renee, kind of back to what Maria said about you. I mean, really trailblazing, especially in the commentary department. There was not really any women doing what you were doing at the time. When you were stepping into that role, did you kind of feel the weight of what it was to be a woman stepping into a position that had been unexplored like that before?
Yeah, I did. I really did. And I had two goes at that as well, because when I was doing commentary at NXT,
Yeah.
and that's a different world than doing commentary on Monday Night Raw, obviously, but it was still, you could feel that weight of knowing that a path was being forged. So for me to be in that spot and then to step away from it and then go back into it on like a different level and on a different scope, really feeling like those doors were being busted down. I mean, that was a burden that I was more than happy to carry, and more than happy to be the first woman to kind of step in there and figure that world out. Like, what is my role on commentary? What is my voice on commentary? What are the things that I'm providing here that Michael Cole's not doing, that Corey Graves isn't doing, and trying to just like find my right footing within that world. But yeah, I mean, you realize that there are, I mean, just with the growing female fan base of wrestling, and not everyone wants to put on a pair of boots, to open up that door for like, no, you can still work in wrestling and still have opinions on wrestling and still be a personality in wrestling without having to do those things. So for me to be a woman, to be able to do that and sort of lead the charge on that for other women, there was a few other little girls at home watching and heard my voice calling Monday Night Raw or seeing me on camera doing that. That's something I'm so proud of. I'll never forget going to Saudi Arabia, being the first woman on a broadcast with WWE and like the only woman on the show, and walking out to our commentary desk and having little girls in Saudi Arabia in the crowds coming up and like they knew my name, they wanted to say hi. Like, that's something I'll just never forget. It's so cool.
And first of all, that's awesome about Saudi Arabia. I'd totally forgotten that I mean, that's got to be, what was it just like for you being in that country? Was there any blowback? Was it peaceful, or was there any blowback for you over there walking into that?
No, everything was great. So, I mean, it was really, when I went over the first time, I think I was the only woman on the show, because I went twice. Yes, I went twice. The first time I went, I'm drawing a blank. If other girls were on that show and then they didn't get booked, that they didn't go through, because that did happen one of the times. It was Natty and Alexa, and they didn't get to wrestle.
Yeah, and I do believe, if my memory serves, now that this is all flooding back to me, I think you were the only woman that went. I do believe there was like plans that got scrapped, and then the next time around there was like women that were.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, because Jon ended up coming with me, and Jon wasn't booked on the show.
Okay.
So he flew over there with me, because you hear of all the customs of like, you can't go anywhere without a man from your family. I just wasn't sure what I was walking into, just like customs wise, and adjusting to a new country and what their rules and regulations were. Even in terms of like, what am I supposed to wear? How am I supposed to conduct myself? But honestly, the whole experience was incredible. There's nothing better than like just being able to experience another part of the world and experience how other people live, and get to see the way that these other women are living, even, and seeing how quickly things are honestly really progressing over there. As much as they're behind us here, obviously in the West, but seeing the stuff that they're able to do there. I mean, the fact that women were at the shows and going out shopping, and there was tons of women out working and like just like out in the community doing stuff. But yeah, to just be out there and not know, when I was doing the show, like, what am I going to wear? What is the reaction going to be of having a woman out here? And I feel like everyone welcomed me with open arms, just from like the second I even got to the hotel, to having people greeting us and people really excited. Like, I had so many like fans in Saudi Arabia that were waiting for the WWE crew to show up, that were like, they were just so happy to have a woman there. So that made me feel really, really good to be there and be received like that.
Man, so it sounds like for you see a benefit in these Saudi shows that WWE is doing, yes?
I mean, to a degree,
okay.
to a degree, I think for what we were able to do there, and, I think for us to be able to go over there and show them something different that they never get to see. I mean, when do they get shows in Saudi Arabia? They're not used to seeing WWE there. So if that is the kind of thing that can plant a seed in another little girl's head as things are progressing in Saudi Arabia to even a little boy's mind to be able to see these larger than life superstars and see these gigantic shows, to be a part of something like that and be a glimmer in someone's eye, I think is hard to look at a negative thing, and from that standpoint, at least.
So obviously you've left WWE, but you do make appearances with the Backstage and stuff. Is it different now for you when you go back to WWE and do anything as before when you were full time?
Um, well, so even when I did when I did Backstage back in January, that's always a little bit different because it's removed enough because it's with Fox.
Yeah.
But it's still nice to see everyone. Like, I love getting to see Booker and to see Paige. I wish that we were able to have the full crew in for that when we did it in January. But no, I mean, it's always fun to step back into the world. That's the hardest part for me for leaving WWE, was not seeing my friends all the time. You spend all this time, 8 years, with everyone from WWE. So to walk away, that's been the hardest adjustment for me, is just not being around everyone. So I'm all for it.
You talk about the full crew. Obviously, I think people would have loved to have seen CM Punk.
Yeah.
I know I've taken you a little over time, but I would
Okay.
be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that Triple H recently noted that him and Punk had talked in the last year, and that they kind of saw people in that backstage orbit. I mean, what's your pulse on the CM Punk WWE relationship? Do you think that there is a chance that something could bloom down the road between these two again, or no?
Well, I think it's like anything with WWE. I don't think you never say never. You've seen people come back that you never thought that you'd see back in WWE. So I think CM Punk is somebody that could, also fall under that. Like, maybe, I mean, the guy's a wrestler. That's who he is. So I feel like in some capacity, I just hope that we get to see Punk wrestle somewhere someday. At this point, I don't think anyone cares where it is. They just want to see him get back out there. It's clobbering time, Let's go.
Yeah.
TikTok, brother.
Well, I'm here in Chicago, and I think that showed up at the Allstate or wherever, I think the place would explode. So.
Oh, I mean, I remember us having shows there before and being like, there's somebody here, somebody's going to be Punk. Like, there's always going to be those rumblings of like, when's it going to happen? And like, what a fun thing to be a part of, to know that like people just really want to see him back in wrestling. So whatever way that happens, if that ever happens, like, I just think it would be, people will freak. I'll freak.
Okay. All right. Last question here. Obviously, with your podcast, you've sent an open invite out to Vince McMahon. Did he ever get back to you? Yeah. Is he going to come? No.
He did not get back to me.
Oh, he did not get back to you. Oh, okay. No response.
No response, but I do have his email. I can get his phone number. So, I mean, I've kind of pushed pause on that a little bit because I've been busy. We've had so many great guests.
Yeah.
But I would love to have any McMahon on the show. Any McMahon is welcome on my show.
What do you want to ask Vince? What does Renee Paquette want to ask Vince McMahon if you get the chance?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
A question about a question, Renee.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've not even gone that far into like, what would I talk to Vince about? I'm just like, can we book him? How can we do this? It'll never happen, but like, it would be amazing. Gosh, you know what? I guess I would just talk to him about like some of the visions that he has for things, and like just being able to pick his brain. I mean, being able to sit in production meetings with him for a year plus and getting to just see how his mind works and trying to understand how his mind works. I think I would just have a lot of questions about like how he runs the shows. I mean, even from like the commentary standpoint about like what his vision is for that, because good God, is that ever a hot seat to be in, huh?
Yeah, dude. I don't know if you've checked out Adnan Virk and the work he's doing on Raw right now, but Piranha's in the water right now over on Twitter in regards to the.
Well, I know, and that's what sucks. This is what bothers me about it, because Adnan is an incredible broadcaster. He is so good at what he does. If you want somebody that is capable to step in, that has a ton of experience under their belt, it's Adnan. But you step into the WWE world and there's literally nothing else that you can compare to that. And you're right, there's blood in the water already. And there has been. I mean, I experienced that. I know. I think anyone that has been in that position has experienced. It's just such a fickle role to be in. And it's crazy to me that it's not treated in the same way of like, you wouldn't take a wrestler that is not, you wouldn't just take someone and put them on the main event of Monday Night Raw and assume that it's going to go well.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you have experience in that world, to go out and call Monday Night Raw it's a completely different. I spent time in WWE, and stepping into that was tough. I had years doing other broadcasts before even coming to WWE, and it's like, you try to get your footing and you've got this like spotlight on you, and people just wait for you to fail. They sit and they want to analyze every little thing you say, and they look for the mistakes. It can be a very discouraging environment to work within, and it's really hard to build your confidence up once you're there. It's hard to stay off of Twitter, and it's hard to not look at what people are saying, because all anyone wants to do obviously is do a good job. But you're put up against these like insane obstacles that like, you think that they would have people that are down at NXT that are training to step in to do that, to like, let's have a different system of filtering people into these Raw and SmackDown positions. I mean, whether you're calling a Superstars, a main event, stepping and doing NXT, I mean, there's so many different shows that we can plug people in to get their feet wet. And it just doesn't really work that way. It's like, here's Raw, here's SmackDown, and then like, you suck. It's like, well, try to make the best. And, you know, anyone, you're not going to turn down an opportunity to step in and do something like that, but it can just be, it's an uphill battle. It's tough.
It's interesting when you say that, because somebody we have on this show pretty regularly is an old friend of yours, Jimmy Corderas.
Oh yeah, I love Jimmy.
Jimmy's the man. We call his segment "It's All Greek to Me." But anyway, he said something very, very similar about the referees, where, you know, down in developmental, you know, you're brought in, and there's not like, you know, with wrestlers, you come in and there's like a mix of like veteran wrestlers and younger wrestlers, and some wrestlers learn from the vets, and you have coaches. But there's just not really that environment for refs. It doesn't sound like there's that environment for commentators either.
And there's really not. And, you know, it's also very much so when you're in that world, everything is about the wrestlers, which I understand, but there are more parts to this machine to make it run smoothly, and to discredit the performance of being a commentator or a referee is really doing a disservice to the hard work that everyone wants to do. I mean, there's so many people that want to be there, that want to do a good job, but there's no training wheels. There's no shallow end. You're thrown in, and it's either sink or swim. And it can just be really difficult. And, you know, I think even from like the commentator standpoint, it's funny because everyone assumes that like, well, you should just be good at it. It's like, well, no, it's not that. You've also got someone talking in your ear the whole time. There's all these crazy expectations. The fans can be voracious when it comes to that. So it's a really tough spot to be in. It's a really tough spot to succeed in.
I remember the early days of you on commentary, and yeah, the fans were not always kind to you, Renee. And it's got to be like such a change of pace right now, because I feel like there's nothing you can do at this moment that anybody has any issues with. Like, everything you do gets nothing but praise and love, Renee. That's got to be a nice change of pace.
Well, it's humbling, to say the least. But, you know, it is that thing. It's like, it really messes with you, because it's not like I went in there being like, I know what I'm doing. It's like, I didn't know what I was doing. They asked me to come in and commentate on Monday Night Raw. So what am I going to say? No, of course I'm going to go do my best and try to figure it out. You know, everything that I had done in WWE to that point, people have been so gracious to me, and the fans have been really, really cool to me and accepting of me. So that's been awesome. But yeah, to step in and they're like, actually, we hate you. I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted. But, you know, you got to grow, you got to try things, and it's fine. It's tough to be in a position like that, and it's tough to feel like you don't want to do a bad job, and I don't want to do a disservice to a story that is being told on television. You know, everyone's putting in so much hard work, so everyone just wants to do a good job, and everyone's just really mean to everyone in commentary. Give the guy a break. He's figuring it out.
Leave Brittany alone. Very leave Brittany alone. I feel you had your leave Brittany alone.
Leave Brittany alone. I mean, it just sucks. It's, you know, there's no real way around it.
Yeah.
Unless, because also everyone just lives in that that time or like that mind frame of like, oh, we just want JR, we just want Jerry the King Lawler. Like people want what they're familiar with. As much as we crave change and we're looking for change, we also are like freaked out by change.
Yeah. Well, I think Pat McAfee and Michael Cole are killing it on SmackDown right now. So
sure, but that being said, Pat McAfee is somebody that comes in with a way different value to WWE than somebody like Adnan does, and Adnan is fantastic, but Pat doesn't need the job. So Pat, if someone's going to try to get in Pat's ear and try to tell him how to do his job, he's not going to stick around, and he doesn't have to. So so long as everyone lets that man do his job, it'll be fine. But that's the problem. My first few shows with Raw, I had a blast because nobody was telling me what to do. As soon as you get under that microscope, you're like, what am I doing again? And you lose yourself completely. Where Pat really has an edge on that, where he is already such a well-known performer. He's already earned so much respect even within the ring. That's something that, Adnan doesn't have that. I didn't have that. I've never been in the ring. I can't lean on that.
And I take it you don't see yourself in the ring in the future? No wrestling?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to start at 35, my wrestling career. I think I'm good.
DDP did it at 40. Come on, Renee.
That's actually a very valid point.
Never count yourself.
All right. Well, hey, never say never. I'll throw a slap around. I don't want to take any bumps though.
Sure. Maybe just blood sport. It's just rolling around,
Yeah. I'll do blood sport.
Anyway.
Me and Allison Kay.
Oh, cool. Wonderful. That you said it. So that's the headline that we'll put up. Renee, I've been looking forward to talking to you. You're doing such incredible work, and I hear so many incredibly nice things about you.
Thank you.
Is obviously the cookbook's coming out here on May 18th. You want to plug that? Anything else you want to plug here to wrap up the interview today?
Yeah, you guys can pre-order my book on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, Indigo if you're in Canada, pretty much anywhere that you guys can get books, but check that all out. It comes out May 18th. And then my podcast, Oral Sessions, drops on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've got some really great episodes lined up for you guys, so check them all out.